There's a little bit of thunder in the distance, so this video could turn out to be a bit more exciting than I had originally planned. So join me with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at 8 Skinny Hoyas. Now the maps seem to have been a hit, so thank you for your feedback on that. And including the names of the places where I purchased some of these plants was also popular, so I'm going to try and remember to do that for you. Now, 8 Skinny Hoyas. There's probably going to be some that you expect. There are going to be some that you may have seen before, but I hadn't done a video about specifically 8 Skinny Hoyas, or any Skinny Hoyas. So I've got them all lined up over here waiting for you. So settle back and let's get on to the first plant. And the first one up is my Hoya acicularis. Now, let me check my notes. Acicularis is from the Donham Valley, and it's on the island of Borneo in the county or province of Sabah and the country of Brunei, and that's the only place it's found. It was first collected in 2002 and published in 2003 by Ted Green and Dale Kloppenberg. And it is distinct from, at this point, all the other species on Borneo because of the unique shape of those leaves. And let's get it to focus. Those leaves are just incredible. I mean, when you want to talk about skinny leaves, that's it. So this is my second try with this plant, and this time it's going very well. First time kind of crashed and burned. I think the plant I received, there's nothing wrong with it. It was a little too frail to be transferred out of what it was in into where I like to grow them. And this plant I received was much more robust. Let's use that word. This one came from Planthead in Toronto. You may have seen them on some other people's hauls. Very happy with everything I've gotten from them. Yes, they do ship to the US, and they do a very good job of it, by the way. So this has been a really interesting plant. It's doing really well. Right now I have it set up to hang, but I think it wants to climb. Just from the way these leaves are settling, I think it would prefer a trellis, so I might, let's see if I think I can do that. Oh yeah, now would be the time to do that because the roots aren't coming through the bottom of the pot yet. So I may move this to a trellis. I'm running out of room. But anyway, this is a really fun plant. It's really unique. There are others that are similar to it, like the next one you're going to see. Another one called Yves Rocheri. So yeah, this is my Hoya acicularis. And the next one up, you may remember from last week's video. This is my Hoya stenophylla. I couldn't do a Skinny Hoya video without including this, so we'll just run through it again. This is native to New Guinea. It was first published in 1913 in, and I'm apologizing to anyone who actually speaks German, Botanische Jahrbucher für Systematik. And it was found by Rudolf Schlechter. You may remember him. Name stenophylla comes from 2 Greek words, stenos, meaning slender, and phylla, meaning leaves. And boy, that really kind of describes what's going on here. It's a very, very pretty plant, very unique, very interesting. The way this one's growing and seeming happily on a trellis is what's making me reconsider that acicularis. These leaves are a little bit more slender, and the plant seems a bit more delicate, but it's been doing fine. No problems with it. So this one came from my friends at Plants Wake You Up, and I've been really, really happy with it. It's an interesting Hoya. That's half the fun of Hoyas, is that there's something for everyone. So this is Hoya stenophylla. And the next one up is my Hoya spartioides. This is one of my favorite Hoyas. Let's down to business. This is found on the island of Borneo in Brunei, Kalimantan, Sabah, and Sarawak. It was first published in 2001 after being collected by George Bentham, and it was published by Dale Kloppenberg. This is a very cool plant. My story with this is I was sure I was going to kill this plant. I mean, I really wanted one. It's really interesting and very unique. But I thought it's out of my league. I'm not going to be able to handle this. But I was wrong. It showed up. I transferred it to pond and self-watering, and it just started growing. And it has not stopped growing since. And I was very excited about that. It didn't die. I was so sure I was going to kill this plant. But it didn't die. It did fairly well. And I thought, well, that's very cool. I don't expect blossoms. And then it started blooming. And it blooms almost continuously. At this point, there's only one. Let's see if I can get that to focus for me. There's only one peduncle with buds. I will try one more time, but it's a tiny little thing. But there are buds coming in on some of the others. It's doing really, really well. I've got it under fairly bright light. The grow light is just above it here. It's in a nutrient solution because it's in passive hydroponic system, and it just grows. I haven't had any problems with it, no issues whatsoever. And I have some photos of the blossoms, and I'll put them over here. This is a very cool plant. If you think you can't handle it, you're probably wrong, and you can. I've seen price ranges all over the place. This one actually came from the Mystery Garden Shop on Etsy. It came from Mystery Garden Shop on Etsy. The name spartioides comes from the Latin spartium, which is a broom plant, and oides, which means resembling. So it means resembling a broom plant. It's done really, really well. It's been no trouble, no issues. It's just like, this is a really cool plant. I mean, how many plants can you tell people about and say, yeah, but it has no leaves? It does produce small leaves when it first starts growing, but they eventually fall off. And photosynthesis is taken over by these peduncles, and it's all peduncles. So this is a very interesting plant. Definitely worth keeping your eye out for. It branched for me and everything. So, 100% satisfied with this one. This is Hoya spartioides. Now the next one up is Hoya tsangii. And I know what you're thinking. This doesn't look like that plant that had all those names on the label from that big company. Tsangii was one of the names that used to appear on that label. But when I found this, it was labeled as the real tsangii. The other one is probably misnamed. This is a really interesting, pretty little plant. Business Hoya tsangii is native to the Philippines, from the southern part of Luzon Island, which is the largest island in the Philippine system. It was first published in 1988 by Christine Burton. And this plant is very, very neat. That's just very, very pretty. Now, I've had this for a couple of years, and I was worried about it being a little too delicate, like I did with acicularis and spartioides. Stenophylla. So I've kept it in lower light, but I think it can handle more. So I've changed the placement on the plant shelf, and hopefully a little bit more light will get it to grow a little bit more robustly. I haven't found any comments on how it actually grows, but it's a very pretty little leaf, kind of narrow. It fits in with the whole theme of Skinny Hoyas. It branched, so like, okay, I'm happy with it. I, of course, want more because, I raise plants, so of course I want more. This one came from my friends at Plants Wake You Up. It's been doing pretty well. It's looking healthy right now, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed, but this is Hoya tsangii. And my next little buddy is Hoya insularis. And Hoya insularis has become one of my favorite Hoyas. I know I say that about all of them, and it's true, but this one, I was intrigued by the look of it. I just liked the whole idea. When I saw pictures of what the blossoms looked like, I wanted to try one. And I didn't know it grew as quickly as it does. This one's like, it just keeps going. So, down to business. It's native to Borneo. It was first published in 2020 in the publication called Wildenoia, and was published by Michaela Rhoda and Sri Rahayu. And it's just so neat. It's doing things with my computer. I need to reconnect. The leaves are firm enough that they turned off my monitor, but they're very pretty. They're very neat. It grows like, I don't know if you can get a feel for how long this is. That vine's probably 3 feet long, and let's see if I can do this. Bear with me. Come on. It produces peduncles that's easily 5 inches long. And the blossoms are very, very cool. Very unique. Hovering in that little, I think these are on their last legs, but hovering in that little circle. And I have some pictures. I'll put some other pictures of them on the side here. But this has turned out to be just a great Hoya. Just a great Hoya. I'm going to, it clearly wants to climb. It's getting into everything. It's into everybody's business. It clearly wants to climb. So I'm going to try and transfer it to I have to do some root cutting, but I'm going to try and transfer it to a larger self-watering pot with a trellis and see how it does. But yeah, this is another one. Keep your eyes out for this because this is just really cool. And this is Hoya insularis. Oh, and by the way, this one came from the Rare Foliage Plant Company on Plant Co. Rare Foliage Plant Co. on Etsy. This is Hoya insularis. Time for a little, the pause that refreshes. Some of you will be old enough to remember that line. Now the next plants up is kind of a story. Of course it's a story, it's me. There's a story involved. These are Hoya mirabilis. Now Hoya mirabilis is from the Swanfong Kaolim. I'm butchering this terribly, I know. And it was first collected in 2011, published in 2012, and was published in Tropical Natural History. It was found growing at a height of 1,100 meters, so it might be a little bit cooler. So this is the first one I got. And I saw the leaves online. I thought, this is really pretty. I want one of those. You know, I need one of those. So I ordered it, and it came from a seller in Hawaii. And when it showed up, let's just say it was the worst packing I have ever experienced from a seller. It was not in the pot. The inside of the box, I think they just lifted up the pot and put it in a box. It was filled with mud. The soil, and it had been in soil, was incredibly overwatered. It was loose. It had shaken around during its whole transit from Hawaii to the East Coast, to Rhode Island. So I cleaned it off as best I could. I decided I had nothing to lose at that point and put it into pon. And it didn't do anything. It would put out a new leaf, and then the leaf would fall off. I think it had a very serious flat mite infestation, which when I realized that seemed to be the problem, I went at it, and this thing got hammered. So it's still nothing. It didn't do anything. And I was very disappointed. It never grew. It didn't put out any leaves. It didn't do anything. So pause on the first one. But because I wanted to try it, I ordered another. And this came as Hoya mirabilis clone B. And let's see if we can get some pictures that will focus for us. Yes. And it's a pretty plant. It's long, narrow leaves with a little bit of splash on them. Clone B is supposed to have slightly more splash than clone A. There could be other differences, but I don't know what they are. And so this one grew. It bloomed. It has a nice peduncle here. It bloomed. I was, oh yay, finally, okay. I got a Hoya mirabilis to grow and bloom, and I'm good. Back to the first plant. This one sat under good light. It got good conditions. It got watered regularly, all the good stuff. And then about, I'm going to say 4 months ago, it started growing. And actually the trigger may have been a friend of mine here in town wanted a cutting. I was quite surprised, but I said, okay. So I took a cutting. And from that time on, the plant started growing. Now the other plant has one peduncle. This one now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 peduncles, and it's growing really well. This one did not come with any kind of designation. Let's see if I can get a good as to like clone A or clone B. It just came identified as Hoya mirabilis. It's really, really pretty. Now that it's growing, well, let's take a look. Let's see if I can see what I'm letting myself in for. You know, I could move that to a larger pot. It's just got one little bit of root. I could move that to a larger pot. Maybe even let this one climb. I'm thinking aloud here. That could be very interesting. I don't know, but it's a very pretty plant. I have pictures. I think I have pictures of the blooms. If I do, I'll put them over here. Blooms from the other plant. But it's very neat, very cool. Definitely Skinny Hoya belongs in this category. I've seen them around and they're not terribly expensive. This one, the good one, sorry, they're both good now, but the one that didn't give me any concern came from Sproutique on Etsy. I was so disappointed with this one, I can't even find the name of the seller. But I'm now glad this plant is here. So these are my Hoya mirabilis Clone B. Now, it wouldn't be a video about Skinny Hoyas without this next one. And this is Hoya retusa. I love this plant. I wasn't sure about it. Not the plant itself, but whenever I saw it in the plant store, it always looked awful. I mean, desiccated, dry, the wrong color, everything that would make you say, why would I consider buying that? But finally I did. Now, Hoya retusa is from the northern West India, all through the Himalayas. It was first published in 1852 in Hooker's Journal of Botany and Kew Garden Miscellany. And Hooker is a person in this case, not a profession. This plant has just done really, really well for me. It's just such a pretty plant. It's a great trailing plant, but I think it would love to climb. This plant is another one that gets into everybody's business. It wraps around anything. It climbs like crazy. I think it would be very pretty. I mean, looking at that, growing up, I mean, that's a nice plant. What's that? Oh, tail into something. It has bloomed for me. I'll see if I can find some pictures of the blooms and put them over here. Yeah, if you see this in the store and it doesn't look, it makes you think twice about spending your money on it, don't. It's a great little plant. I just recently moved it it was in a little 4-inch pot. I moved it up to this 6-inch self-watering pot. And since the root system is kind of fine, I decided not to try and transfer it to pond. That didn't seem to be a wise move. So I just lifted it out of the old net pot, plopped it down in this new self-watering pot, and it's been very, very happy. It's not under the grow lights. It's off to the side near my southeast facing window. And yeah, this is just a good one. If you don't have one in your collection, you should seriously consider it. Yeah, if I were going to recommend a plant or create a list of good plants for beginners, this one would be on the list. This is Hoya retusa. And the last one up today is probably no surprise to anyone. I've seen it referred to in many postings as everyone's favorite Hoya. And this is my Hoya linearis. It's just a fun plant. It's very fun. We had a bit of a struggle. There was a bit of a learning curve, but now it's doing fairly well. It seems to be, is that a peduncle? No. It seems to be happy where it is. It's getting decent light. I just moved it recently to a larger self-watering pot, and it's in an organic mix. So it gets decent moisture, but on its terms. Hoya linearis is native to Assam, south central China, the eastern Himalayas, Laos, Myanmar, Nepal, Vietnam, that whole northern region. There, I've read a notation someplace from one of the articles describing it, saying it grew in Sikkim, and it grows in the hot valleys at 4,000 to 6,000 feet. So you might think it's really cold growing, but it did say hot valleys, so probably sheltered and, cooler temperatures for sure, but not what you would expect for the Himalayas. It was first published in 1825 in Contributions to the Botany of India by Nathaniel Wallach. I am told it has not bloomed for me yet. I am told that it needs cooler temperatures to bloom. So my hope is, I'm of two minds. My hope is that it will bloom in the plant room because it gets nice light there and I can keep an eye on it. But the plant room stays like 64 to, what does it get up to? 75, even through the winter. And so it might want something cooler to trigger the blooming. So what I may do is put it in a different part of the house for a while, because I only heat my house to like 64, and in the evening it cools down to like the upper 50s. And see if that will trigger this little puppy to bloom. But, having this growing off a shelf in your house or hanging off the wall, which is how I have mine, is a really neat thing, and everyone does stop to look at it. The leaves are really fuzzy. They're very interesting. Yeah, this is just a fun plant. Another one, I've seen the prices be like insane, and I've seen the prices be reasonable. This one, the linearis and the retusa I showed you, both came from a local nursery, Briggs, up in North Attleboro. So the prices were very reasonable, and this has done quite well for me. I'm very happy with this. This is another good Skinny Hoya. This is Hoya linearis. Now, some time ago, I did a video called Build a Quick Release Hoya Trellis, and it was about making tied bamboo trellises. And I got a request recently from someone who said that they couldn't figure out the knots I was tying, and could I show that? So I did a quick little video about how to tie that knot. It's known as a butcher's knot, at least that's how I know it. and that's what I used because it kind of locks. So here's a quick little video on how to tie the knots for that, and I put a link to it up here someplace. You'll see it. So let's look at the video. The knot I use to tie my trellises is very simple, and I know it is a butcher's knot, but it may have other names. So you bring your string around, cross it, go through the big loop once, go through the big loop twice, and pull. And then repeat the process. Through once, and through twice, and pull. And the double loops form a locking knot that should hold up fairly well. And I want to thank you for choosing to spend some of your time with me this week's end. Remember to click the thumbs up like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell. They're all really important to the channel. Subscription doesn't cost you anything, it's free. A lot of the products I use are available on my Amazon storefront, and there's a link in the description below. You can support the channel by visiting my Buy Me a Coffee page, or by clicking on the 3 dots, which I think is over here, I could be wrong, and then the thanks button. And all of your support is greatly appreciated. I'm going to put links to a couple more videos over on this side of the screen. And oh yeah, the last question. Tell me in the comments below, what was your first Hoya? And thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your week's end.